morning, dobre utro. And my first masterclass that I'm going to do is kind of a timeless beauty makeup to really show you how to make the skin more fresh, more radiant. And this for me is a nice point of reference, especially with our makeup and the way we test our makeup in the studio, because it's not just makeup that's used on photo shoots with young models. It's used on anyone and everyone. So I've just used a little bit of makeup remover to refresh the skin and remove any excess makeup. And now just some fresh water to refresh. And I would say in this kind of makeup, the skin definitely has to be the main feature and the most impressive part of the makeup. I'm going to layer 2 primers to really plump and hydrate the skin. I find the primer water is oil-free, alcohol-free, silicone-free. It's just really a drink of water for the skin. That's the beauty of this primer. You don't have to blend, you don't have to touch. You can just spray into the skin. Another option, if you don't use a primer water, is just to use a very lightweight hydrating primer. And something like this is a very lightweight gel, so you can really work this into the skin, and it's a strong absorption into the skin cells, which then also helps to plump up the skin cells. And the primer oil is a combination of 50 natural oils, and because they're all natural oils, they're very fast absorbing into the skin. There are various face oils on the market, but this is the specific primer oil that we've developed in such a way that is going to make the skin even better with the purpose of makeup being applied. Now, under the eye area, I use an under eye primer. It's very hydrating. It stimulates circulation. It works against puffiness, fine lines, wrinkles. It's a good multi-purpose preparation for the eye area because later we'll be applying concealer on top. I'm also going to use a primer on the eyelid before any eyeshadow. I would always use a primer anywhere on the face before I do makeup. You have a very special technique for applying any primer, and it's your fingers. The reason being, with any of the primers, you can warm up the product. But most importantly, as you're applying the product to the skin, your fingers are giving you feedback. So for example, I can feel on the skin if there's too much, and where the skin is telling me that it needs a little bit more, where a brush or a sponge is not going to tell you that. Under the eye, we have a lot of purple tones. And by using a little bit of color correcting first, you use a lot less concealer. When you use a lot less concealer, the skin looks more fresh without creating any texture. We have 3 different color correctors that we work with. The green helps to neutralize redness. The peach helps to neutralize any blue or gray tones in the skin. The lavender is really great for neutralizing any sallowness or yellow tones in the skin and make the skin look more bright. For me, the BB water that I'm using is extremely lightweight and very, very hydrating on the skin. It has an SPF 30, and it's kind of the multi-purpose benefits that you would find in the BB cream, but in the texture of a serum foundation. So the movement is almost like a tap roll. The more you blend on the skin, the more sheer you're applying it, and the more you tap and roll, the more you build the coverage. So this is a 15-hour wear foundation, which gives more coverage, which I'm just going to use in the areas where she needs a little bit extra coverage and a little bit more long wear on the skin. And so these are some of the great tips on really how to create that amazing, beautiful, perfect skin that looks effortless without makeup. So now I get to my concealer. Very important about concealer application. Start in the area where you need the most help. And then from there, you're blending the concealer down and across. And this concealer I'm using, it's a hydrating 24-hour waterproof concealer. So also when you're doing your concealer and your brightening, you want to make sure that this inside triangle of the face is more bright. So for example, my color correcting, I only applied where I saw the blue tones in the eye area, but the concealer is applied a lot further out. And it's very important to blend your concealer down so that visually the skin looks smooth and bright, even though it's a lot lighter there and a lot more red in that area. I'm going to use a mineral powder to set the foundation. However, what you want to focus on for the eyebrow is a fuller eyebrow that's rather lighter in color than what you would usually use, but thicker. Because a thinner, darker eyebrow is more aging than a more full eyebrow. What we just did to make this palette easy, we included all our usual eyebrow colors and then your basic eyeshadow and eyeliner colors. She has a classic almond eye shape. So the makeup application in terms of the eyeshadow, it's a very straightforward, light, fresh color all over with a slight more definition brushed through the crease of the eye. Most important application for hooded eye, your darkest color on the eyelash, medium all over the eyelid, and light at the top. So it's dark, medium, light. Very important to focus on if you can see the color coming out of the crease of the eye if the person is looking straight forward. One of the most common makeup mistakes I've seen is when someone's applying the eyeshadow and it's like, and then that looks really amazing, and then she goes. I stand in front of them and I ask them to look at my nose, because while they're looking at my nose, I can see exactly the shape of the eyeshadow. And the more you lift the eye area, the more comfortable it feels for the person. I just want the eyelashes to look like they're creating a bit of a shadow under the eye. Any eyeliner around the bottom of the eye should be very diffused, because if any eyeliner around the bottom is a harsh line, it pulls the eye down. It's almost like a concealer for the inner liner of the eye. You have to blow and make a wish. For her eyelashes, I really want to focus on length and not volume. So I'm going to use a decent exposure mascara that's got a nice thin brush. You can get a lot of length without any thickness to the lashes. The more you work from the base upwards, the more lift you can get on the eyelash. Also, what I tend to do in a small way, I do, because every time you kind of slightly go backwards, you're pumping more mascara to the base. If you do mascara only on the top lashes, it's more of a lift makeup application. If you do top and bottom, it's more of an opening makeup application. So do you want the eye to be more open and big or more lifted? You can decide. And by using a lip liner in the same color as the lip, it's easy to add that extra definition to the color of the lip. And something that I really pay attention to is the skin undertone and the eye color. Because for many years as makeup artist, I was always choosing the eyeshadows to make the eye color more bright, but the perfect lipstick can really make the eyes pop. If you have to do a perfect lip and you're stressing about the application, sing a song in your head. Because while you sing a song in your head, you cannot also be doubting if you're able to do it or not. And this application, I'm slightly shaping with color. I didn't do any contouring and highlighting, as you've noticed, because she has an amazing face shape. She didn't need any. A brush will wipe off any coverage from foundation, or even using a brush to pat. Patting is much safer. So with this workshop, I just want to show you some more kind of current trend techniques that I'm noticing, techniques and tips on skin. Because a big trend with makeup at the moment is having that beautiful Los Angeles skin, eyebrow and lip. Also what I'm seeing more and more, when you wear a lip color, it should look like you're wearing a lipstick. So don't just choose colors that are your neutrals, but if you're wearing a color, even red can be beautiful, but it can be expected. So now go for more crazy colors when doing the lipstick. And I often say, let your lips do the talking. Your lip color should represent your mood and your playfulness. So if you feel like wearing a gray lipstick or a purple lipstick or an orange lipstick, go with it and have fun. Primer water to hydrate, and then some hydrating primer just to really plump up the skin, especially towards the middle of the face. And because I'll be focusing on a lot of glow on the cheeks, I'm just going to use a bit of primer oil just specifically in the cheek area. A little bit of hydrating under eye primer again. This just prepares the eye area for any concealer. On the eyelid this time, I'm going to use a 24-hour shadow primer. It doesn't have any color, but any product you apply on top of this becomes waterproof. It also allows a lot more pigment to stick to the skin, so it makes your eyeshadows a lot more intense. You can even apply this product in the eyebrow before you do the eyebrows, because especially if you're going to use a powder in the eyebrow, the powder will then become waterproof. So especially for someone that's been in the sun, you really want to pay attention to only applying the product kind of in the middle of the forehead, and then you blend it away. Because if you apply your foundation all the way to the hairline, it looks like a mask, because the skin is always darker towards the hair. And so now what I'm just doing in the center part of the face, I've mixed 1 drop of primer oil with some Studio Skin. And this way I can add a stronger coverage in the center where we had some redness in the skin. And for this you could also use a beauty blender if you like using a beauty blender. Masla? Niet. Some face oils are too thick in texture and they will let the foundation just slip. The primer oil won't do that. The concealer I'm using on her is BB Cream Eyes. It's a much more lightweight concealer. SPF 15, hydrating, brightening. That's why I'm just using a brush to buff it through. Also, some people go a little crazy where they use a concealer that's 10 times lighter than their face to do that triangle. So go for like something that's 1 to 2 shades lighter, but not too light, because then in photos, especially with flash, you can get the flashback under the eyes. So now I'm starting to contour along the cheekbone, and I'm placing the color right against the side of the bone instead of underneath the bone. There's one contour color that's like a gray-brown. This is to create shadows. The highlight color is to add light and brightness and bring something more forward. And the bronzer is the assistant, because just with these two, it can easily look like stripes on the face, brightening the center of the face, center of the nose. The reason I draw little X's, they're a lot easier to blend than just putting a stripe of color. Now a few points with contouring and highlighting. You want to put 2 fingers on the side of the nose. No contour, brush or bronzer will come closer to the nose than those 2 fingers. If you draw a line between the bottom of the ear to the bottom of the nose, nothing goes lower than that. So even if someone wants to do the be sure to blend up. If you pinch your thumb and your forefinger, that's where the contour and the highlight goes. This is my contour, this is my highlight. So it all goes onto the bone. To blend, you can use a foundation brush, you can use your fingers, beauty blender. There's different options. And I apply the bronzer almost in between the two. So you had contour, highlight, bronze in the middle. So this is even more enhanced highlighter on the heights of the bone structure of the face. So for the nose, I would only highlight that indent on the nose area. And some people you can highlight a little bit further, but never on the tip of the nose. In the studio, we test all our foundations and colors in 5 different lighting conditions. So you know that your makeup will look good in any light. If you have a radiant face all over and you're doing strobing in some areas, the skin can become too shiny looking. So the areas that you're not doing the strobing, if you apply a little bit of powder in those areas, you can see the contrast even better, and then the strobing is even more effective. I've got a lot of glow going on the skin, a lot of strobing on the skin, so I need to play with texture. So for her, the lip and the eye is going to give me matte texture, and the skin and the brow and the strobing is giving me shine. So I'm using a slightly bronze pencil and just to smudge that around the lashes. And you can say that I'm doing smoky eyes at the bottom and clean, fresh eyes at the top. And the benefit of this, you're getting a lot of drama and sexy, smoky, sultry at the bottom. And at the top, you get super fresh and you're able to really add extra focus on the eyelashes. Because as soon as you have some pencil on the top line, you're cutting your eyelashes in half. What I like about this brush, it's got empty spaces on the side. So I press the empty space against the lashes and I brush through with the brush side. I'm going to use my full exposure mascara, which is a good glossy black. And I've seen more and more celebrities that really want to focus on how big the eyelashes are and how long the eyelashes are. They love this kind of makeup look. And for someone that doesn't have an eyelid or the hooded lid like mine, this is a great tip and technique. Just really want to get underneath those lashes for an extra bit of depth. I'm just touching up my eyeliner in the lash line. Make sure that when doing a grey lip on somebody, you've covered all the natural pink on the lip. There should be no pink that comes out on the edges. Never blend lips like All the lip liners we have are water resistant. So if you color the whole lip with a pencil before you put the lipstick, it stays a lot longer. Just to give the bottom lip more of a lift. Just right on top of the cheek, I'm using a slight bit of a powder highlighter. So in her cheek, we have contour, highlight, bronze, LA lights, powder. So it shows you how you can play around with different textures. And this is my LA skin and trend makeup application for you. There's so many reasons. I find makeup always looks better with primer. Your makeup will blend a lot easier on the skin and also stay longer. But also at Smashbox, we have a lot of different primers to solve a lot of skin concerns. So your primer will make the skin feel perfect even before you start your makeup.
Мы можем сказать, что праймер это главный продукт в макияже в стиле Smashbox?
It's one of our definitely most popular products. Smashbox Cosmetics was the first makeup brand to launch primer. Because we work in our photo studios in Los Angeles, we really know on how to perfect the skin even before you apply the makeup, so that when you're on camera, the skin looks perfect, but it doesn't look artificial.
Бренд Smashbox зародился в фотостудии, был создан Дэвисом Фактором, который прямой правнук Макса Фактора. Тут уже генами заложена любовь к красивому женщинам, красивому лицу. И действительно, это продукты, которые обладают уникальной совершенно фоточувствительностью и максимально раскрываются именно на фотокамере.
For example, this is one of our beautiful oranges, and to add a beautiful color to the cheek, I will apply it from the middle of the cheek, blending back. So you can see I'm just blending it upwards along the cheek, and it gives that beautiful warmth to her cheek area. And then the same color you can also press onto the lip. For a very soft stain, just use the finger to tap onto the lip. For example, like that, it just gives a beautiful soft stain. Or if you would like to intensify, you can just use a lip brush, and to intensify even further, you can even use a lip liner to add more color and definition. So as you can see, I just applied some color on the cheek and the lip, and already it looks like a really beautiful makeup. Yes. If you want your red lipstick to be very bold and statement, do the red lipstick with no blush. But if you want your red lipstick to look more natural, be sure to have a color from the cheek that will connect to the lip. If you're choosing a red that's slightly more of a warm tone or orange tone, choose a slightly peachy or warmer blush. Because it's important that whenever you've done the lip and the cheek should have a little bit of a connection in color tone. So for example, here you can see more orange reds with peach blush, or slightly more pink reds with slightly more pinky toned blush. First of all, if you use the correct primers, you won't have a lot of flaking and smudging during the day. However, if you do have some texture around the eye area, you can really refresh the eye area by reapplying the hydrating under eye primer. Use a little bit of your hydrating under eye primer and very slightly massage around the eye just to refresh and revive. This really rehydrates the skin and really refreshes. Then on top of that, very lightly with your finger, you can take your concealer again and just tap into the skin. If you have any makeup mistakes around the eye area, you can use a sponge or a cotton tip with a little bit of primer. So for example, take a bit of primer on a cotton tip, and very easy just to clean any mistakes.
Очень удобно, если, например, когда вы делаете смоки, темные тени осыпались, и вам необходимо как-то их убирать из подглазного пространства и при этом не разрушить полностью макияж.
Or if you would just like to refresh and maybe remove a little bit of the color on your cheeks, you can use a sponge with a bit of hydrating primer. So by using the primer as a makeup remover, it's a lot faster and you don't have to apply any other product on top. I find when we do makeup in our studios, because we shoot with such advanced cameras, the camera sees details in the makeup that you don't even see in everyday life. That's why we test all our products in the studio, because the camera is even more critical than the human eye. So for us, we know that if something is good enough for a photo shoot in terms of the texture or the color, it's perfect for every day as well. But otherwise, there's not that much of a difference between working on a shoot in the studio or working in everyday life. Especially now with social media, we're all taking selfies, we're all taking photos, so you always want to look camera ready and look good in all different lighting conditions.
Or Instagram.
Instagram,
Snapchat.
Facebook, VK, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram stories, Facebook Live, selfie.
Yes.
Always selfie ready.